Okay, back again. This is 52 Weeks of Design Live. I'm Alexa Hampton on a very warm day in New York City. And I am going to be speaking to Lisa Fine. And there she is, I'm inviting her. Hi!
Alexa, how are you?
You're so nice and far away. How am I gonna? My husband is doing something with the little stand I sometimes use.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the lights can never be low enough and you can't be too far away. I feel much more confident that way, but I'm happy to move up closer. I just wanted to let you know that when we made this date, I was so excited and I forgot that I was not going to be home. And it worked out for the best because I'm in Palm Beach launching my performance fabrics at Well Made Home. So this was a real coincidence, but and I will move the camera closer.
Sorry. So you are in Palm Beach. This is how long have you been in business doing this?
Excuse me?
How long have you been in business?
Probably about 14 years with the textiles. I'm not really good with numbers at all, but I think it's been a while.
It's been a while. And prior to that, you were in fashion.
Yes, my first job was in fashion, and I always loved clothes. And I don't know how I made the transition. I think it was when I first left magazines, I wanted to work with books, and I was given all these jobs to research style and decorating and fashion. And I just, as life has it, I ended up more and more involved in lifestyle as opposed to fashion.
So I didn't realize you started off in magazines. Where were you?
Well, I'm going to really age myself when I tell you my first job out of college was with Mademoiselle magazine. And I'm sure most of your viewers have never heard of it because it's been out of business for decades.
That's hard to believe. I can't believe it's been gone for so long.
Yes. And then I was at Mirabella. And after that, I started, working in publishing. And I actually always loved decorating. And I became most interested when I moved to New York, and my great friend Richard Keith Langham and Sam Blunt had worked for Irvine and Fleming.
Yeah.
And I used to go to their offices and visit them all the time. And I fell in love with interior design, but I never had any inkling to work in the field. It just sort of happened after I went to India, and one thing led to the next, and I just became obsessed with fabrics. And I'm lucky because what I do as a career really was a hobby or passion that just ended up, taking over my life.
Where your heart took you. How much do you think, if you had a moment there where you were researching for books, I feel like there's plenty of research that goes into your patterns. They speak to what has come before, but I do think that they are a fresh, great take. Do you have research go into which patterns? I mean, it's obviously I have a fabric line, but when it's mine's very omnibus, and yours is Lisa Fine. I can see your aesthetic 100%, and it's how many different patterns?
Oh my gosh. I don't really know. I would probably say I have maybe 180 if you count the colors, the actual designs, maybe 50. I like I said, I'm terrible with numbers. Don't ever ask me numbers.
Oops.
What?
The idea of, I'm just going to hold it, 50 designs, and you're starting off and you are finding your voice, right? And you know what you love and you know what interests you. But how do you figure out, I'm introducing myself to the world as a textile designer. How did you figure out your voice?
It was sort of funny because I really operated totally from my gut instinct. And when I started my textile business, I was really focused on trying to start a fashion company. I was making tunics and caftans and coats with Carolina Irving in India. And I was so consumed trying to make that work because that's a really difficult industry. But when I came to my fabrics, it was fun. It was refreshing. It was like great. And I just followed what I loved. And luckily, other people liked it too. It really evolved naturally. And then as I stopped doing the clothing and I got more focused on the textiles, obviously more doors opened. My inspiration really expanded outside of India. And I look at a lot more historical documents and just, whatever's pretty. And it can be anything. Like lately.
You say that, but I think that whatever your philosophy is comes out. I look at what you offer, and I really know something about where your heart is and what appeals to you.
Oh, Alexa, you're so sweet. I take that as a huge compliment. Thank you. I've always been accused of liking things that are just too pretty and fussy and old-fashioned. I'm not a hard edge person. I don't like hard edges in design, even though I can appreciate beautiful contemporary white rooms, and I love what I see when people do it. But when I do things, there's always a lot of pink or something, a floral or something soft. So I think essentially I am always inspired with things that are romantic and feminine. I'm not saying that a man can't use my fabrics, but I always have to think twice if it's a man's apartment. I mean, I won't always jump to my favorite choice. And I mean, basically that's it. And I think the biggest change in my inspiration is I started off, visiting the workrooms of, friends that were in the heavy chintz design of New York. Then I went to India and became very interested in sort of the Silk Road and Turkey and India and Persia. And after COVID, being home for 2 years and rewatching all the old movies and the classic rooms, I now feel like I'm going back to that, but yet it's not like it was when I first loved it 40 or 30 years ago, because I still have that hint of the exotic. And that's what makes fabric so much fun and design so fun, is you can love something, but if you're always evolving and looking, it changes over time. And I think that's really the essence of what I do, is I just love pretty things, but it's always changing in one way or the other.
I mean, there are a million things I feel like I want to ask you about. It's so funny that you describe yourself, your taste is like sometimes too pretty, because I find, and this isn't just lavish flattery, I find your designs crisp enough that they don't fall into that trap. Like Luxor that I have in my dining room, or even the way some of your drawings are, your designs are drawn, the actual line work in your designs, I find so crisp and pristine that they, maybe my understanding of feminine is blousier, like I think ruffles and rounder things. And I feel like your designs actually can go on that line very well. They walk the line without falling into too pretty at all.
Well, thank you, Alexa. And that is the real challenge.
Yeah.
It's a real challenge because often I'm not a prissy person. If you know me, I'm really not. But often I can like things that can be really prissy, but you don't want to be that way. So I strive to have things romantic and feminine, but not prissy. And I guess that's, the difference. I mean, I know what you're saying. It's the same way in dress. Like, I love a pretty dress, but I don't have a lot of ruffles around my face.
Though, I mean, I love a ruff. I mean, I don't wear one because I am not. I'll take my hair down because I'm seeing it more and more. The gods were not generous with their giving of neck to me. I got big, a lot of hair. It really did me on the neck, which makes me cross with the gods. But I'll see somebody wearing like a full-on Van Dyke ruff, and I think I want to say it was Mika Erdogan. I would wear them. And of course, she had this beautiful swan neck, or has a beautiful swan neck. And like, I do think that's very cool. But yeah, that's not even that femme somehow. There's something so outrageous and bold about it. But yeah, big pink satin bows and furbelows, not my
Yeah, no.
gig. Not my gig at
No,
all.
I tend to agree with you. And you know, if you're worried about your neck, which I think you're being overly critical of yourself, my mother always said the minute she got old, she was just gonna have pearl chokers to cover her neck. So
It's,
you know, there are solutions besides ruffles.
I'm not asking for much here, Lisa. Anyway, so I want to talk to you, obviously, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts as a you're approaching your designs with a reverence for history, an appreciation for cultures that are not your own. But here's 2 weeks in a row I've spoken to people. Last week John Rob Shaw, and this week you, who were seized by a love for India. Like, you went there, and I do feel like some of us are born in the wrong place. Like, in New York, it's very easy to be a cipher, right? We're kind of nothing and everything, so we can pick and choose. But sometimes I feel like there are people who, when they travel to where they should have come from, light up. And I feel like clearly the history, your appreciation of the history of Indian textiles, the actual textiles themselves, and as you said, it expanded to Turkey and the Silk Road. Um, what does it, right in this moment, I talk to my kids all the time about cultural appropriation, and they're like, well, you're doing these kind of European things, but you're not European. And I'm trying to explain to them, like, yes, but it's an expression of love and reverence and also some scholarship, right? There's
Yeah.
like this whole thing wrapped into it, and it's sometimes hard to express what that relationship is.
Well, you know, I have to tell you, I stumbled into it. I had a lot of friends who were English, and every time I went to one of their apartments, I would love the fabric or this or that. And they'd always say, oh, I got it in India. And that was when I first had this desire to go to India. And honestly, when I first went like 25 years ago. I hadn't been there 48 hours when I said, I'm going to work in this country. I want to do textiles. I want to do design. I want to do something. Because if you're visual, and you aren't sort of, skittish over dirt and sort of third world countries, you fall in love with it because truly you cannot describe the colors, the design, the patterns. You can't describe, I mean, you've been, I'm sure, Alexa, and there's no way to imagine how it can inspire you if you're a creative person.
I missed everything you just said.
Well,
Somebody called and
it
my
wasn't that
Wi-Fi
interesting.
went off.
It wasn't that interesting. I'm just saying, if you're a creative person and you love fabrics and colors and patterns and textiles, there's no way India can't change your life, won't change your life.
Yes.
I mean, it just, the minute I arrived, I knew I wanted to work in fashion, but I mean, in textiles. But the most interesting thing is, because I was a history major and I love history, the more I learned, the more I realized most of the things I loved in India actually started in Persia. And that's what was really interesting, to see the whole breach from Persia and how the fabrics and the textiles and patterns evolved in India. And then I spent the next 20 years, researching and looking at different things.
Deep diving. And what you're talking about is really the history of trade hubs. Big places where things were traded, and then it starts in Persia and it ends up, as you said, in India, or anywhere that trade route is, the culture starts bleeding through.
Yeah. I didn't realize that the old fashioned European chintzes that I had always loved really originated in India, that they made them especially for the European market.
Yeah.
So, it all sort of goes full circle. So, you think, oh, I only like Indian fabrics. Well, guess what? Those wonderful. I mean, it's just,
Wow.
it's my
Seriously?
hobby as well
It's
as my
not like a
hobby.
job. You don't have major
crushing
You know what?
logistical issues
When you
ever?
try to produce, you know what? When you try to produce clothes in India for 10 years, nothing is a problem.
Right.
You know, that was every day was a new drama and it was impossible. So
Yeah.
obviously,
Were you working in English the whole time? Was everybody you were working with
oh
speaking
yeah,
the same
yeah,
language? Okay, because that's already such a
yeah.
boon.
Oh yeah. It was only not in English when they just decided not to speak English, but yes, you know, everyone, especially in Delhi and Bombay and in major cities in the north, everyone speaks English.
Yeah.
It really wasn't an issue.
By the way, I have not been to the Taj in Mumbai. But otherwise you said the Old Connaught, and what was your other favorite hotel?
Okay, well, I love the old Taj in Mumbai, and I love the old Connaught, and believe it or not, I love
Me
the Gritty.
too. Oh, the
I
Gritty. No. That's it. I'm a Gritty girl. I will not stay anywhere else in Venice. Not like I spend so much time in Venice, but it's just, yeah, those old school places. It's the same thing. You go and you get like a little bird's eye view into another world.
yeah,
And you think I want to stay here because it makes me think of the time gone by.
and to me, there's nothing more disappointing to go to one of those hotels and arrive and see that it's been redone, because the reason why I love the Gritty Palace is it hasn't been, and I think we would travel really well together, Alexa. Because
Though I will tell you, I went there within the past 5 years, and there was a bathtub in our bedroom. It was one of those modern eggy bathtubs.
Oh, they redid it?
No, no. It looked as it looked, but there was a tub.
Oh, good. Oh,
so that was clearly, yeah. That ain't old fashioned. I don't remember on my honeymoon hanging out with the tub.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
I'm not researching it. My daughter loved hanging out in it.
Okay, well, I love a hotel that hasn't been touched. What can I say?
You would love my apartment.
I've seen. I do love it. I do love it. In fact, I was so thrilled when my first big pink paisley came out. I think it's called Lahore. I think you ordered it for your dining room chairs.
No, Luxor is on my dining room chairs.
But you ordered Lahore for something. I'm as positive.
I'm sure. I mean, I use your fabrics all the time.
Well, I get very excited when people with great taste use my fabrics. It's really what makes me keep going, because there's nothing better to see your fabrics in a beautifully done room.
Yeah, I get that. I also, what's great, okay, so philosophically, you want to make beautiful fabrics, right? But yes. The beautiful, really amazingly patterned, big statement fabrics frequently are not used in volume. Does that ever, how do you deal with that as a businesswoman, saying like, okay, well, actually this probably brings us to your performance fabrics, because you want, obviously you're a business person, you want to make money in your business, but you want to have the thing that everyone uses and can use because it's durable or it's solid or it's whatever, but you don't want to skimp on your design, because why bother doing it if you're not designing it, right?
Yes, well, I'll tell you, it's a very interesting question, and I discuss this often with the girl who works for me, because sure, I have like 6 fabrics that just sell all the time, and then there'll be this big print that I'm madly in love with, and it doesn't sell all the time, but often when it sells, it's lots of yardage.
Oh, okay,
for example, like a big print someone might use for curtains. You aren't going to sell it every day for a slipper chair or something like that. So it's kind of, you almost have to look at the sales for 6 months to a year to really get the appreciation. Because I often get a little down when my favorite fabrics don't sell. And then I'll look, oh my gosh, but I did get those 3 big orders that,
somebody understood what I was up to.
Excuse me, yeah.
How long does it take you before you kick a SKU out? Like when you get an order, do you have to print a huge amount in advance?
It depends on the printer. Some yes and some no, but not huge. Well, it's really funny because I've just been having this conversation with the girl, Charlotte, who actually runs my company, and she's brilliant, Charlotte Barnes. And, she had a whole list of things that we need to discontinue. And I kind of felt like I was giving away children. It was like, no, really, I love
It's
that.
hard not to be offended with
Well, I'm
discontinuation.
not really, it's more like I'm territorial. Like, why not? We did. Anyway, I kind of now,
Wounded.
we came to a compromise. You know what we did? Okay, certain things we're getting rid of and certain things we're adding colors to. So, you know, it's a process, and I'm at heart, I'm a hoarder. Okay. I really like.
I almost thought you said you were a whore.
Well, I like
Woo! That's
It's
interesting. Okay, hoarder. Gotcha.
it's hard for me to discontinue, but I'm getting better. Just like I'm trying to like edit my closet, edit things. I think editing is a very good talent that I don't have, and I'm working towards it. But you're right.
But if somebody were to call you and there was a discontinued fabric, how much would there be a point at which you would consider doing a special order for them?
Absolutely. I have a friend who's a designer and a very successful designer, and I don't think she's ever ordered anything from me that she didn't have to have custom colored. And
I
you
could
know,
color something.
custom color and you know, I grew up, my family was in retail, and the customer is always right. So if someone wants a custom color, I do it.
That's great to know.
It's irritating. But Alexa, it's very irritating, but I'm always happy when it's finished, because it's usually a big order, because you aren't going to custom order a color for pillows. It's usually going to be a room or
vision.
Yeah.
So that must be one of the benefits of, would you could describe yourself as a boutique textile firm?
Oh yes, small. It's very small. Yeah.
So, I mean, but it's also very professional. So I wasn't sure if it was in fact small. It appears small in terms of, you know, everything feels editorial. You know, there's not filler in your collection. It's all you know, it's a bunch of hits.
You know, it's hard for me to be objective because I look at it so much, you know,
so your ability to change things up is clearly the benefit of having a boutique firm.
Yes. And I think it's also the printers. I think if you, I have very good printers, and it's really about the people that work for you. You know, if you have a great person running your company and you print with established, nice printers, you know, anything can be done. And sadly, that was probably part of the problem I had in India. I never had that system. I would say, you know, working in America mainly and some in Europe, it's just a system that seems to work. I mean, let's hope it continues. You know, we have many challenges at times, but so far so good.
How do you print? What is, like, are there screens? How do you do this? We
started off doing all hand printing. Now, when I was in India, it was literally hand with the blocks. We did hand blocks, but that wasn't sustainable for my business. As I have evolved, there have been certain documents that I want to do, and I want to increase the scale and do, you know, things to make it not so precious, not so sweet. And then we'll have to go to digital printing. But those are only.
Okay, so that is what I wanted to talk to you about, because you do not appear to be a digital printer. So I am interested to hear that you are.
You know, there's certain things you have to make a choice. Do I want this cabbage rose to be big so it looks fresh and modern and new and people love it because they haven't seen it? Or do I want to keep it the way it was or not do it? And, you know, I'm always stepping out of the box, whether it's good or bad, but it's just my gut feeling that when I really want a design to look a certain way, if my only option is to go digitally, I'll do it.
Oh, I don't judge digital as bad. It's just,
no, I don't.
It actually makes me very, very, you know, I hate the idea of, obviously you want every artisan to have a job, and you want artisanal handmade things to continue in life. Of course, that goes without saying, but you also want beautiful patterns to live, to fight another day. And if that means they have to go digital, then fine, because you don't want them to disappear.
Exactly. But for me, honestly, it's just those words, hand printed. I love the sound of it to say hand printed on the label. It just sounds so much more
Yeah, yeah.
romantic.
But if you
It,
can get the effect, I mean, who hasn't looked at Fortuny and thought, God, I wish that were every fabric could have the variation and
yeah.
saturation, and they do it so beautifully. But you have a lot of variation that appears, and it, I was curious, like, are you able to capture that in a way that you can mass manufacture it?
Oh, yes, you can. The technology, as we all know, when we try to turn on our new TV set and can't figure
Yeah.
out how to do it, or our new car,
Yeah.
every field, it's just changing so quickly. And, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have dreamed of doing digital, even though people said, oh, Lisa, do it. But I feel like with every year, things just get
Get
more and
better.
more and technically better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your incubation period from idea to available in a shop?
It really depends. I've done it in as little as 6 months, and I've done it as much as 2.5 years because I can't get the colors right. It depends on the design, but I would say more importantly on the color. And some people I work better with the colors, others not. It's just there's so many variables. And now that I work with probably 6 different printers, I'm understanding who does what best. So we're able to correct it in a better way. But you can never tell.
Yeah.
But
I like that that you'll take the time, because
I take
it's not worth
I
it.
it's at some points after over 2 years, and I don't even know how many strike offs. I said, okay, let's just try it, and then I'll get it out there. And you know what? That's one of the things that's going to be. But it just at some point, as they say, you just have to bite the bullet and do it.
There's an uglier expression for that.
Well, I
will
say that
I won't provide it.
my mind, but I thought, oh my gosh, I know that's what Alexa. I am not going to be on video. I'm not going to.
I know, right?
Yeah.
As you
I don't
well
want that.
know, yeah, I have no problem with that. I'm sorry, I'm looking for a charger. I'm completely discombobulated today, and I apologize.
No, that's okay. You know what? That's my usual days, and
I'm going to find it. Okay, so I would love to talk to you about, for anybody listening to this who doesn't know about it, what is the process? Is that charging? Yes, it's charging. What is the process when you find a document pattern? What does that mean? How do you secure, walk us through the process.
okay, a document, or are you just saying an inspiration? Because okay. I started off by taking pictures of wall paintings and things I would see in the markets in India and creating them into repeats. And then I went to the Textile Museum in Washington, D.C., and went through their archives. And that's where your favorite print, Luxor, came from. And that was actually a Coptic Egyptian textile. I think I Googled this morning because you asked me. I think it's 2,000 years old. And it came from India. And it ended up in the Textile Museum in Washington. Ironically, I was just with Lulu Little.
It came from India, but it was Egyptian? Which way?
No, it was made in India, and it found its way to Egypt, and it was buried forever in Egypt. And it was, yeah. But it's funny to confirm this. I was just at the Textile Museum with Lulu Little, and we were talking to the archivist, and they have a whole collection of those type of textiles. And apparently you would find them in garbage bins because people just miss pillows and random. They were old scraps. And apparently there's a huge collection of them now. But anyway, so that was one. So that was one archive I got. And then
now, and you just go to the archive and you say,
I take a picture on my phone.
okay.
I did that.
So like a very natural process of, ooh, that looks beautiful. I'm going to take a picture and ruminate.
Exactly. And then also now there's so many textile dealers that are online. You know, there are printers that have archives, and I'm just constantly looking, and I see them, and I buy antique. I mean, I can't tell you all the things that I want to reproduce, but you know, you do just a few. The minute you open yourself up to like having different printers and not being just stuck on doing hand screens, there's so many things. It's really hard to like narrow it down.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. And that's why I'm like, how did you get to those 50? Because they're great. Do you ever have it like a checkoff list to keep yourself? No, you said you're on your gut.
I
So
do,
you, yeah.
yeah, but I do have a checkoff list in the sense that like I wanted certain boutiques that I didn't have. You know, I wanted cabbage rows, of course.
To flesh out the offerings.
Yeah, there's always a list.
So as a person who designs things, I will sometimes get data back. I mean, not like I'm paying too much attention to it because I like that's far too organized. But sometimes I will get data back saying, you know, these sell really well. These don't sell so well, blah, blah, blah. And I almost don't know how to read the data. It's almost like, you know, because you can read it several ways. Like I can read, oh, those did well. That means I'm good at designing that category. Or, oh, those things aren't doing well. I should focus on those. You can read information like that so many different ways that I sometimes find in certain categories, certain product categories, that it can be hard to reasonably flesh out your offerings in a strategic way.
Yes, I agree. However, I kind of like, it's like when you go to the fortune teller and you want to believe what you want to believe, so you don't listen to what they say. That's kind of my fabrics. I look at it as a whole collection. I know some sell well and some don't sell well, but I also, if I think something doesn't sell well, I still look at it in the general scheme and think, oh my God, but that one pillow in that fabric would look so great with these three. So
Right.
I always look at it in a group. And like I said, is editing out the ones that don't sell is not my strength. And luckily,
Sometimes you need to give it air to live. Like, you know, Seinfeld was, I know this is a stretch, but Seinfeld was not a popular television show when it came out, but it was given time.
And that is true. Like one of my first fabrics, which I loved, and it was inspired by the murals in the Lanvin bedroom at the Museum of Decorative Arts, and it's these deer and squirrels, and you know, and I loved it because I love animals and things like that. And it didn't sell, and I said I don't care, and I kept adding colors. Now it's a really great seller. You know, as you said, some designs just need time. You know.
What do you wish well, you said 14 years, or you don't know, but generally a decade and a half of this. What do you wish you had known, if anything, at the beginning? Are you very happy with, I mean, we all get where we are in a natural way, right? So we shouldn't lament how we get places. But what do you wish you had known about the business when you went into it?
You know, I wish, you know, I think, honestly, I feel like the fact I didn't know anything might have worked to my advantage.
I have heard so many people say that.
You know, I wish that, you know, I grew up thinking I wanted to work in fashion, and I never really explored, you know, I always loved art and I always loved painting and things like that. And I just was never aware of textiles really as a career for myself until I went to India. And I'll tell you, I was 40. So that was a little late to get involved in my
40 is a great,
you know,
I remember it fondly.
I wouldn't have mind if I'd really gone to India a little earlier, or, you know, maybe taken some, but, you know, even if I'd taken textile courses, it wouldn't have hit me like arriving in the country of textiles. You know, there's nothing like just head on, you know, just being, you were just engulfed with colors and prints in India. So, I mean, that would really be my only regret, is I just thought of it maybe. Well,
yeah, not even regret. I mean, you were a proper adult and you knew your mind.
Yeah.
So that's also, and you'd also tried something else.
Oh yes. Oh, and still was still trying. I mean, the whole time I was developing my first textile collection, I was spending most of my time making caftans that didn't fit.
I mean, that's for me the whole point of a caftan. That there is the
Oh, no, but you know,
that it's
our
just
textile art.
a pump
Listen,
tent.
unless let me tell you the most embarrassing thing that ever happened in my life. Finally, we get like grown up manufacturer, and I'm having this big trunk show in Dallas, and everyone's coming, and I've got my boxes, and it's a really grown up business. And this girl who loves to shop puts on this velvet caftan that we had done, and as she's putting it on, the sleeves start falling off. You know, it's like stuff like that happen all the time.
Like it's a metamorphic dress. It's amazing.
you know, and I could tell you stories like that forever. And
Yeah.
you know, what can I say?
Yeah.
But
No,
I right in. I dove into my textiles, and thank God, you know, the textiles didn't have those problems.
yeah. Did you always know you wanted to be in business?
No,
Because
honestly,
it sounds like with the fashion that you started,
uh,
you
I,
started
I
young.
I wanted to get close wholesale and go to sample sales when I was that age. I mean, it was just I grew up sort of surrounded by fashion and stores and stuff like that, and it was just the obvious thing. But I never like it. I never really was business oriented. I loved history and reading, and I thought
Yeah.
about going to graduate school in history. Um, and fashion magazine, I had a girlfriend that was picked as the college girl for Mademoiselle. She came back from the shoot. She says, Lisa, I found the perfect job for you. There are these little girls that run around and pick pocketbooks and shoes. So I said, sounds good.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm offended by that. Her saying that,
Well,
even though I totally get it. I mean, who wouldn't love
well,
that?
I mean, now why would that offend you? Because that was, please tell me
No,
why that.
I totally get it. Like that would be a fun job right now, still.
No,
But
but I mean, for me, I was living in Dallas, Texas, to go to New York City and work for this big magazine and dress models and
well,
all that.
that is not how you presented it. You said, "Oh, there's a job that's perfect for you, Lisa. You get to go around and pick handbags."
But that's what she said. That's
But
what
if she had said, "There's a perfect job. You get to do this, but you move to New York. It's vibrant. You're in the big city. You're working for a big corporation," then I would be less. Then
Yes.
I'd be totally on board.
But she also didn't tell me that I'd be ironing the clothes, carrying the suitcases, taping the bottoms of the shoes, waiting on a whole crew of people hand and foot. And but I loved it. It was New York.
Which is great training.
Yeah, the best.
Yeah. You got to do it all.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't mean everything, every profession, but you were in charge alpha to omega, and nothing was beneath your notice.
No, and it was listen, it was the best experience ever. Now, had I known, if I probably would have done it, because you see behind the scenes back then, like, and meet people like you would have never otherwise. And actually, it helped get me into the design world.
For sure.
Yeah.
How has the pandemic affected you personally, not business wise? What has been your experience these past couple of years?
Well, I've realized that I'm real happy being lazy. And when I say lazy, I don't have to go out every night. The first 9 months, I read voraciously. I developed my performance fabrics. I watched a lot of old films and things. And, I hate to say, for someone who's gone out every night of their life practically anywhere, I really maybe go out one or two nights a week during the pandemic, if that much.
I mean, that to me is kind of like my life before the pandemic.
Excuse me?
You're describing my life before the pandemic.
Well, I actually enjoyed it. It was a real sit back, assess things, create things, read, learn. And I feel like the biggest geek and the biggest nerd saying it, but I actually liked it, and I'm having a bit of an adjustment problem now, getting back into my full swing. Like, what can I, it's good.
And I don't think I think that's great. There's so much suffering across the board, across the world, that any happy things that happened during the pandemic, I am here to listen to. You know,
Listen,
I want to hear about the bright spots.
well, I'll tell you something. I know this sounds really kind of horrible to say, but with so many horrible things going on, the first year of the pandemic, I promised I would try to read a book a week. And I pretty much did, unless it was really thick. And I read almost all about World War II. But I would go from reading a World War II book to the memoir of a Duchess during World War II. So I sort of balanced out. And so I got a little fluff and a little serious, and it was kind of perfect. And it just made me realize how lucky we all are. And I can't complain, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I would have, if I had that reading list during the pandemic, I would have just been tortured by seeing similarities. Being, you know, like when you read about anything, any period in time, you compare it. You see vestiges or echoes in the time in which you're living. And yeah, my panic was escalated.
You definitely see the similarities in the past 60 days, okay? That you see the similarities.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, sometimes when everyone thinks, oh, things are so horrible as we did 2.5 years ago, I just thought, you know, I'm just gonna read about when things really were horrible.
So, or
anyway.
totally. Tell me about the performance fabrics. When did you know you wanted to do that?
You know, everyone's been telling me for years and years I need to do it. And I said I was going to do it, and it was during the pandemic when I'm at home and I'm not traveling, I'm not doing anything. I said I would sit down and focus on it. And also it was very easy because most of my friends are in Florida now, a lot of them. So instead of thinking of India, I was thinking of Florida and the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Yeah. And I thought, you know, I love India, but I'm ready to go back to old-fashioned America, classic things, but yet with a little umph. You know, like, for example, I have a fabric that came from Turkey, but it doesn't look really Turkish. And then I watched a lot of the old movies, believe it or not, and I kept looking and looking for something old-fashoned like that.
Which are the ones you're watching?
Well, I'm going to show you this fabric, okay?
Yeah.
I've watched everything, Alexa. It's sick how much I've seen. But this was one of my favorites. And you don't have to like it, but this was I was most proud of.
Oh, so close. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, look at that coral.
It's a coral polka dot, and this is performance.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, and the world needs this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just thought, you know, and I know this sounds really stupid, but there's that movie High Society, and they have that pool scene that's so beautiful.
I love that when she sings this.
Well, but I
sing to me.
The fabric.
I can't talk about fabric. Her bathing suit is all I want to talk about. Her bathing suit and that cover. Her Greek goddess.
Yeah, well, I screenshot all the fabric there, and it just didn't work, okay, for me to reproduce. But that was sort of what I was channeling. The sort of, anyways. And then this, I had to get a pink and green in there.
Love, love, love.
And then, you know, just
that's the only musical that my children, I mean,
and
that they loved. Teens.
But anyway, anyway, it's all coming.
So it's
color.
It's lots of pattern. It's that's gorgeous. They're very Lisa Fine.
Wait, one more, then I'm going to stop.
No, I love that.
This came. I bought a child's Turkish coat over the internet, and this was the lining of the coat, and I just thought it was just, I liked it. I love stripe of any sort.
Yeah. Do you draw?
You know, I used to, and then when I took enough art classes, I realized I was so untalented, I would never draw again. So I appreciate people that draw well. I'm not one of them. I don't sew. I don't draw.
But I love that, because you look at how well you're able to do what you do, but you don't have to draw.
Well, when I'm really bad at something, I don't have the ego to keep getting worse, and I just, I went to Parsons for a year, and that was it after college. I'm just not good with my hands.
But what were you studying?
What?
You were studying fashion.
Yes, after the magazines, I went there for a year to study fashion. But other than no, I'm just not. I'm not. But
No,
usual.
I find that I think it's great. I mean, I think it's great that you can see something and like, I'm definitely on Etsy getting crazy things, bolts of fabric in the middle of the night. But I think it's great that I'll look up a lot of Uzbek things. And you'll get a kid's coat and, inspiration really is there if you look for it.
Oh,
if you open yourself to it and you take everything in those terms, the experience of your whole life becomes richer.
yeah. No, there's so much inspiration out there. When young designers ask me, well, what do you suggest I do? I said, just see as much as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whether it's in a book or on TV or on a travel, I mean, just always be looking and it'll find you.
Right. Feed the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm not charging again. What is, hold on, sorry. Gosh, well, our timing is good, at least. My goodness, what is happening? Oh, no, we're back on. We're back to charging. Okay. You said you're having a hard time reconciling life as you lived it before with all your experience of the pandemic, getting up to speed again. Are there things that you're going to keep from your process during the pandemic in your future work? Or are you just going to hop right back on?
No, I'm going to try to slow down a bit. I don't know if you have this, but for 2.5 years, we had everything canceled. And now everything has been rescheduled within like 2.5 months.
Right.
And I'm kind of going to keep those commitments, but now I'm going to pace myself. I don't want to go from airplane to this, to that, to that. I just, I feel like I've accomplished a lot more not being so frenetic all the time.
How are you going to do that? How are you going to keep
let's speak in 6 months. Maybe
yeah. No, I would, yeah. I think what you just described, though, about everything getting canceled and happening in 2 months, that happens a lot to me in my business, but it's not cancellations, it's delays.
Okay.
And it's not pandemic specific. So I could try to order my life 10 years ago. Like, okay, I've got this big job, I've got this little job, I've got that big job, and they're all on different revolutions. They all have different start points and different end points, and everything looks great on paper, but it always would end up bunching. There would always be like a month from hell where it was an airplane every other day and, best laid plans. There is a natural rhythm to every project, and it is hard, no matter what your intentions, to keep, to order it.
I hear you, but we don't have a choice. We aren't sit at home retirement girls. Like, even though I look for a career, I love my career. So if I have to, I'll do it. But I've certainly cherished this slowing down, and I hope that I can continue a little of it.
I think it's great advice. I just want to speak to you in 6 months and get pointers, because I do not, I don't have a handle on it, on pacing.
Well, that's what's great about living in New York, and especially you growing up in New York. It's just not in your making. I grew up in Mississippi, where the people are the slowest in the country. So for me, I'm just kind of.
But obviously there's a purposefulness to slowing down. And it can be a richer experience and a better product and a better project and a better relationship and a better, a savoring, as opposed to a gulping down.
Absolutely.
Everything turns into a food metaphor with me. Just like colors, I really see in terms of food. I'm like, that's toast and that's baked potato. Oh, I wanted to ask you about, I looked at the favorite pink of yours, Pink Allure, Sanderson.
Yeah. Yeah, I
What-
don't know if they still make it.
I
Do
couldn't, could you put a picture up on your Instagram so I can see it?
Well, I don't know if they still make it, but I'll tell you, my friend Charlotte de Carcajou had a studio in London, painted that. And when I painted my apartment in Paris pink, I used Sanderson Pink Allure, and it was my favorite pink. Now,
And what kind of pink was it? Was it a pale pink? Was it a coral? What?
it was, oh my gosh, it's in my book. And,
Oh yeah, I'm so sorry.
and,
I've not talked about your
and
book.
you know what? It's sort of, it's not a sweet pink, and it's not enough brown to be terracotta. And I think we did 3 coats, so it was a strong pink. But I don't know if you find this, but I find when I love a color, it's more difficult to get the correct shade, because pink can get too sweet or too dirty, and this was kind of the perfect pink.
It can either go, it can go like Santa Fe or too much blue, which looks like Pepto-Bismol. And somebody just asked me, what's my pink color? This is Pharaoh and Ball Oval Room Blue. So I you need to post that, because I need to know what color we're talking about. I need to see what.
Okay. I'm going to post it. I promise. I'm going to do that. But can I post a picture? Not because I don't have to paint.
Yes. No, I need you to mix some pigments. No, a photo.
I'm just not good with my hands, like stuff. I'm not a good paint.
How was the process of writing the book?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I mean, first of all, I was really lucky because Miguel is a great friend of mine, and he's also, we sort of think alike and go back and forth in the sense that it was, I didn't have one problem. I'm trying to think. I really liked it. I was a little nervous at first because I didn't know what I was doing. And once I started finding my way, it's just, I would take walks in the park with my dog for a couple hours, and I'd come down and write what I thought about. And, it was great. It was so funny because I will confess, I had no idea what I was going to do. I thought it was going to be a book about my fabric or something. And the more I thought about it, I said, that isn't interesting. What's interesting are the places I've seen and the people that have inspired me. And luckily, they all said yes. And Miguel, luckily, said he'd get on a plane and go photograph them. So it was just it was brilliant. It was great. And I love my publishers. Vendome are fantastic.
Yeah. So many books that they make that I love.
I did not have one drama, and that's unbelievable. Seriously, it was a pleasure from beginning to end.
Do you think you seem like you attract that you attract like happy, good vibe, things going well?
Well, life is too short to not see your glass full. Okay, that's all.
Yeah. Well, it's I love your attitude. It's really cool. And yes, everyone needs to get this book. It's called Near and Far, and it's got beautiful, well, to what you were saying about look at everything, see everything, feed the fire. It is coal for the fire. So people need to look at this and look at those rooms, because they're wonderful. Totally get why they've all had an impact upon you.
Oh, thank you, Alexa. Can I just say one thing quickly? Because first of all, thank you for having me, and I've loved this. And when we met, I didn't know I was going to be in Palm Beach. And I just want to say that these great friends of mine, Melanie Mount and Elizabeth, have opened up this store, Well Made Home, on County Road. And I don't know if you get to Palm Beach, but you have to come here. And they're the first people to launch my performance fabric.
That is so great. Can you give me a little swing around?
Yes, I'd love to. Okay, let me see. I just love it. They're so, okay, let's see.
I mean,
Let me get this done. Let's see. Is this what I'm going to show you? Can you see?
and love that painting.
Oh, yeah. The artist is Isabel, I think, Geddes, and she lives in Locust Valley.
Uh-huh.
And here's one of my new fabrics, that pillow. And they have rugs from India, of course, and all these wonderful lampshades. And here are some with scallop edges. And here are, some of my fabrics. I'm in John Rosselli's showroom, so they just basically do custom things. So it's not like they sell my fabric by the yard, but they have everything from lamps. Like, look at this precious little lamp
Which
here.
is great. Do you make quilts and stuff?
Oh, no. You know what? I did all that stuff in India, and I've given it a big rest. And this is the same artist here.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Here.
Isabel Gitty, you said?
Excuse me?
Isabel Gitty, you said?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now her name. Her name is Eliza, G-E-D-E.
Eliza.
Geddes, Eliza Geddes.
Okay.
And she has all
Eliza Geddes with a D or a T?
D, 2 D's. And I'm going to show you right here. Okay, and she has, all these napkins are fabulous. And she custom colors everything. And then here's your favorite, my Luxor. And these prints are a friend of mine from India that I introduced to them. And she buys all that. But
could you do a little more in a purple?
Excuse me, no, but we can do it, Alexa.
Yeah, you need to.
Send us the color and we'll get it to you. So, okay, so you have the idea.
Beautiful. I think they need to start making blankets of your stuff, like a Roberta Roller Rabbit.
Okay, well, I'll tell them. I mean,
that would, bedrooms that aren't decorated by a decorator, or someone who's, committed to decorating the room can, sometimes it's just the bedding that will make it. If you have that fabric bedspread and the pillows, it does everything. And since they sell the lampshades too, that's kind of like you're done.
Yeah. Well, I love a bedroom. As you know, it's my favorite room. I cover my walls, my ceiling, everything.
Is that
fabric?
The green and white with the pink bedspread?
Excuse me?
The bedroom that is green and white with the pink bedspread.
Yes, I did that for a show house.
Oh, I loved it. I loved the pink bedspread. So in your questionnaire, you said every room needs something unexpected. And I thought that was such a stroke of genius.
Well, I have to have a touch of pink everywhere, especially in a bedroom, of course.
Of course. Well, thank you so much. Sorry I've been down and unplugging and unplugging and moving.
No.
I so appreciated this. And thank you so much for my beautiful Luxor. I never get tired of it. It hits something in that room where it's just like nothing else. Because you can get tempted to change things and whatever. Yeah. I will never change that.
Well, listen, you send me that purple swatch and we'll get a purple Luxor, okay?
God, but I am again trying to spin it out into other rooms. I need to stop myself.
Listen, thank you, Alexa. I mean, really, this was really fun. And like I said, I love it that you like my fabrics. I can't tell you. But I'm happy to do purple Luxor. I just need to know the shade.
All right. I'll be looking at your Instagram to see the photo of the pink room.
I will get it to you. I promise you right away. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Have a nice day. I loved it. Okay. Bye. Let me get off this. What?
See you soon.
I hope so too.